Hello, you're watching West Bloomfield 911. I'm Officer Rick, and welcome to another show. On behalf of Chief Mike Patton and my brothers and sisters in the West Bloomfield Police Department, we are so glad you tuned us in. We have two very exciting guests. These are brothers in blue. I'd like to introduce Sergeant Rick Leonard from the Auburn Hills Police Department. Sarge, welcome to the show.
Morning.
And Craig Shackleford, crash investigator, easy for me to say, crash investigator and research analyst for the International Center for Automotive Medicine and a former police officer in Bloomfield Township.
Yes.
Craig, how are you?
Just fine.
Good. You reached the promised land. That's a wonderful thing.
I did. I retired last May.
Excellent. I don't want to talk to you. Okay, folks, we'll be right back with our guests. But you know, we always do something this time of the program called the Corner Spotlight, where we like to highlight an employee of the police department. Today, you're going to see the smiling countenance of dispatcher Dan Pletsky. Dan is assigned to the communications division or communications bureau, and he hired in July of 2015, so he's a relative newbie. He's been a dispatcher though for 12 Oaks Mall, so he brought some experience with him. Now, I don't get to see Dan too much. He's on midnights, and you know what, Dan, if you're going to stay on midnights, I really don't want to see you too much because it means I torque the chief off. But we'll pass each other in the hallway. He has a real interest in carbs. He loves lasagna. That's his favorite food. And, you know, I'm really impressed with this young man because he loves Fyodor Dostoevsky, who wrote Crime and Punishment in 1866. Dan, you're a man after my own heart. I love those Russian authors. His favorite movie is a favorite genre. He loves comedies, so he's serious in his books with Dostoevsky, but he loves comedies in his movies. And again, what a great young man. He loves classic rock and roll. You know, you want to be my son? Oh, sorry, I digress. Dan's favorite hobbies is, well, he loves to play piano. He's quite fluent in it, and he has a website where he downloads all of his music, and that website is called Reverb Nation. So take a look at it and see how well this young man plays the piano. And he said he loves to go paintballing. So he's a very interesting young man, a man of many tastes. And his favorite quote is, "The grass is not greener on the other side, it's greener where you water it." And I do like that. That's from an unknown source. And it's very similar to one that I like to use, that the grass isn't always greener, or the grass is greener on the other side, but when you get there you find out it's AstroTurf. So you know what, he's a great young man. We're glad to have him. I hear nothing but good things about him in dispatch. So Dan, we're going to turn the corner spotlight off on you, and hopefully we'll see each other in the barn. Folks, we do get a lot of calls at the police station. I know the other officers get it, and I get them as well, from people who receive emails that look very, very professional. They'll have a cover page. It looks like it's coming from the FBI or coming from one of their banks or financial institutions or the IRS, and asking for personal information. This scam is very similar to the ones where you receive the phone call, someone claiming to be from the IRS. If you receive such an email, first of all, never open an email if you don't know the sender. Always delete it. Even if that email itself is not going to ask you for money or ask you for personal information, that email may send a virus into your system which could destroy your files, destroy your hard drive, and make life very miserable for you. So disregard any email coming from anybody claiming to be from an institution asking you for personal information, or it could be from them claiming to be from Microsoft or Google and they want to fix your computer. None of those companies will do that via email. They will send you a letter through the postal carrier's office, or you can contact them by phone, not a phone message given to you via email, but call them on a phone that you've looked up to see if that is legitimate email. But disregard emails and you don't know where they're coming from. We want to keep you safe, and that's one way to do it. Folks, don't go away. We're going to be right back with our two special guests, Rick Leonard and Craig Shackleford. We're going to talk about crime investigation, so don't leave us on West Bloomfield 911.
You're watching West Bloomfield 911 on Civic Center TV, a service of the Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commission. For more information or to watch episodes on demand, visit civiccentertv.com/WB911. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
The Michigan Sheriff's Association has been on the front line of providing education, training, and programs to Michigan communities since 1877. As the only organization to officially represent the Office of Sheriff in Michigan, the MSA works toward improving professional standards to better protect the citizens. To learn more about the Michigan Sheriff's Association, call 517-485-3135 or visit mysheriff.org.
Hello, and we are back again with my brothers in blue, Sergeant Rick Leonard, Auburn Hills PD. Sergeant, you mind if I call you Rick?
Not at all.
All right, thank you very much. And Craig Shackleford, not ex-police officer, retired police officer.
Retired Sergeant, Bloomfield Township.
Absolutely. Craig, welcome to the show as well. Glad to have you guys here. You know, we were talking off camera, and we'd spoken in the past. I know you and I had met, Craig, and talking about accident investigations. And people don't realize how important that is, especially nowadays with all the new technology that's in cars and such. So I guess one of you tackle, why do we have to keep re-examining accident investigations, and why do we have to take advantage of the technology that's available? What's so important about an accident? I want you to try that. You want to go, Craig?
There's something to be learned from each tragedy. And a lot of times these are fatalities, and there's a lot of personal injury out there. They disrupt people's lives. The vehicles that we have now, they have smart technology on board. They have the computers, they have data loggers. That's very difficult to access and interpret. And when we do crash investigation, we look at the human evidence, and human evidence is what people tell us, what people saw. And then there's the physical evidence, you know, kind of like the CSI kind of thing, where you're looking at vehicle damage, you know, the damage profiles, skid marks, yaws, evidence on the roadways. And we take all of that and see what overlaps. And we see the truth is in the overlap, and we have a high confidence of a set of facts that are within that overlap to determine. In my case, we give feedback to automotive manufacturers about building safer cars, but it could be given feedback to the traffic engineers of building safer roadways.
Okay.
And of course, I work over at the University of Michigan,
Right.
where the medical school is, and we teach the treatment people, the trauma people, how to triage and diagnose injury patterns based on certain types of crashes.
Okay, now, of course, in that case, we're talking about serious accidents where there's severe injury or death. And Rick, you're still out in the elements.
Correct.
And you've got major thoroughfare. You got I-75 going through your jurisdiction, and even myself, when I'm off duty and you come upon a crash scene and you've got to be diverted, I'm just as happy about the build-up and the backup of automotive traffic as everybody else. But why don't you explain to the public so they don't think we're just out there wasting time? Why do you have to close the road down, and why do you have to divert everybody?
Well, it's important also with these investigations, which the team that I'm on is charged with investigating serious injury and fatal accidents, either fatality or some type of injury that's going to result in a life-altering consequence. We close roadway lanes down, and we close roadways to preserve the evidence that's left on the roadway, also to work safely in the scene. I'm part of a multi-jurisdictional team with Bloomfield Township, Auburn Hills, the City of Troy, and the City of Bloomfield Hills. And one of the things that we strive to do as part of that team is be as efficient as possible. Close as few lanes as what we absolutely need, and then work as efficiently through that investigation so that we open that roadway and those lanes as quickly as we can. But it is ultimately important in a case where somebody may have died from their injuries or is going to have life-altering consequences that we preserve the evidence left on the roadway, completely document that evidence so that we can create a complete picture, and then take appropriate enforcement action or preserve the case for civil litigation down the road.
Well, and that's what I think a lot of people don't realize is when you close that road and you're investigating that scene, that's basically a crime scene.
Correct.
Because there could be not just civil litigation, but criminal charges that ended up coming out of that accident investigation. And of course, we all know there was that massive crime scene up north of us on I-75 when the trooper was killed. That was about 4 miles long.
Yes.
And so basically you're investigating what could be a criminal investigation.
Yes, and lots of the evidence that's left on the roadway or left is very perishable. Cars drive over it and over it. Those skid marks degrade over time very rapidly, as a matter of fact. Debris gets moved. Other things that might be pivotal in determining fault in the crash, speeds involved in the crash. It's important for us to lock that down. But the other component of that is part of the team mission is to be as efficient as possible and get those lanes and that roadway reopened without compromising the quality of our investigation.
Well, let's talk about what is that team. You mentioned you're part of a consortium.
Yes.
What is the name of that?
It's the Southeast Oakland County Crash Investigation Team. We refer to it shorthand as SOCIT.
Okay.
It's Auburn Hills, Bloomfield Township, Bloomfield Hills, and the city of Troy. We've combined, and that's where we've recognized a lot of speed. Traditionally, when there was a fatal accident or a serious injury accident, we'd have to call somebody in from home.
Right.
And there'd be an hour to an hour and a half wait. By having the multi-city team, we've greatly expanded the coverage where there's an investigator on duty more of the 24-hour day, which allows us to respond quickly and start those advanced investigation protocols much faster. So that's shaved about an hour off of most crashes, just having that greater on-duty response.
So, and just like with other consortiums that law enforcement gets involved in, whether it be like a drug consortium or whatever, like yourself, if an accident happens in Bloomfield Township or one of the other 3 communities that are part of your group, you'll leave Auburn Hills and go to that community.
Correct.
And they, in turn, will also come to your community if you guys need help.
Yes.
Okay.
It works as a force multiplier as well. We can throw more than 1 or 2 guys at a crash scene. We might be putting 5, 6 guys on a crash. That allows us to work more rapidly and more efficiently at the scene.
Right. Well, now, Craig, you were on that side when you were in uniform before you reached the promised land of retirement. But now, as you said, you're working for the University of Michigan. I'm not going to complain about that at this point, even though my daughter's graduating from MSU, but we won't go there. You're working for U of M and the International Center for Automotive Medicine. How do you work with Craig and SOCIT in getting the information you say, that you would like to look at and analyze and then present either to U of M from a medical standpoint or to the companies? How do you guys interchange and work together?
We can get the investigative packets from the agency. Now, once we deal with that type of information, we strip off any identifiers. So identities are protected, the vehicles are protected. We also go to the emergency department and we contact crash victims and ask them if they want to be part of a study, and they'll give us consents, and then we can get into their medical records as well as take a deeper look at the vehicle and see what we can learn, because there's a lot of different things that aren't obvious, to the layperson, but engineers or public policy people or an analyst like myself can fine-tune the data sets, and you can really learn some profound things. Now, over at the University of Michigan, we're uniquely placed because we have the educational resources, the engineering resources, the medical resources, and the close proximity to the technical resources because of all the manufacturers here. The study that I'm working on now with pedestrians is a world-class study. It was actually initiated by some auto manufacturers in Europe. Now we have some North American partners as well. And we're going to change the designs of vehicles in short order. In Europe, you're going to see the change of the front of a vehicle to make it more pedestrian friendly based on the data sets that we're coming up with. Because right now we're the only place in the world looking this deep into these types of incidents.
Now, when you say to make the car more pedestrian friendly, and I may be assuming incorrectly, would that be then that the car design will take an effect that if a pedestrian is hit, it's less likely to result in serious injury or death?
Yes.
Okay. So, and the automotive companies are open to redesigning the cars for a purpose like that?
They commissioned the study.
Really? Wow, that's fantastic.
So they're working real hard about safety.
Now, where is that going to show itself, if you know? Where will that show itself first, in the U.S. or in Europe? Or is it kind of going to be all over at the same time?
We don't know exactly. It's manufacturer dependent.
Oh, okay.
I suspect Europe, because they came to us first.
Okay.
So they set up their infrastructure to accept this information first.
Now, Rick, let me ask you, because I worked on the road for quite a few years, and every road patrol officer has a limited amount of investigative training in auto accidents, and we all handle the minor accidents. At what point in an accident could you tell the people, does it go from a minor accident to where it's just the road patrol officer is going to handle it, to where it's going to be something where we're going to say, you know what, we need Sergeant Leonard over here, or we need Socket? At what point, how does that work?
Usually our road patrol personnel and our road patrol supervisors on a serious accident are going to talk with the medics that are treating the patient, and we try to make a real rapid assessment of, you know, what are the likelihood that this injury is going to result in either a loss of limb function or a closed head injury that's going to be significant. It comes down to a judgment call, but usually we work closely with our medical personnel. And one of the things we talked about earlier is technology. One of the things that's going on, and this is part of Craig's program, is we're real-time photographing crash cars and sending that telemetry right down to the ER, so that the doctors can say, okay, I've got an injury to the head, and this is the part of the vehicle that the head struck, which is, you know, advancing patient care ultimately. But when it comes down to deciding whether they call the team or activate the team, it basically is a quick workup with on-scene officers, maybe the supervisor, and the medical personnel on what they think this person's chances of either survival or long-term injury would be.
Okay, now I don't know who wants to handle this, but once you get a serious accident, and we have all the computers in the cars now and all the technology that's constantly obtaining data as to how fast the car is going, whether brakes were applied, all that sort of thing. Who obtains that data? Would that be something for you guys in Socket, or is that something for your organization that would obtain that data? How does that work?
We would get, on a crash like that, if the car has an airbag control module that captures data, we would capture that data. Currently, we use the Michigan State Police or Oakland County Sheriffs to physically perform that download and provide us with an analysis of it. The team does have the hardware now, so we'll be going live with that.
Okay, so that requires special equipment to download all that information.
But almost all cars manufactured today have a module that collects data. Some collect more than others. But that data is critical to us, but it's a backup to what we collect at the scene.
Yes.
So, you know, we're going to run our investigation, collect our data at the scene, and then the good thing for us is that becomes another reference source. You know, when we determine a speed of a vehicle, we can go back and look at that and match them together. Corroborates our math work and our evidence collection at the scene with an independent source. You know, we don't rely solely on that, but it does provide a lot of valuable information to us.
Helps fill in some of the blanks.
Yes, it certainly does.
Okay, now once that data is collected, that's where you guys would come in, and they would, Rick and that unit would analyze it for also maybe possible criminal charges and that sort of thing. You guys are strictly looking at it from a engineering standpoint, or a medical standpoint, or engineering for a road safety.
And we're interested in injury treatment and prevention.
Okay.
And we'll look at vehicles where they won't look at them, you know, with consent, because we're looking at incidents where things went right. So we're looking at lower thresholds. You know, it could be simple pedestrian knockdowns or slight collisions that normally a police or a law enforcement investigation team wouldn't be looking at. They'd be simply reporting the incident.
Okay. Now, Rick, because the accident investigation may result in a criminal charge, this information you get from the car, that is information that's readily available, or do you have to obtain court orders and warrants and that sort of thing to obtain that information?
Our team protocol is that we would get unless we got a consent form signed by the owner of the vehicle, we would get a search warrant for that data.
Okay.
It's a relatively simple process. But we just think it's better to obtain a search warrant, especially in the initial phases when we may not know exactly who's at fault or who's
Right,
not.
right.
But we want to capture that data because that data is perishable. It functions on ignition cycles. So if you turn the car on and off, you could clear that data out of the memory.
Oh, okay.
So we would do a search warrant. We would impound the car.
Naturally.
We would do a search warrant, and we would collect that data, that evidence, as quickly as we could.
Okay, very good. Now, Craig, when you guys are doing it, you're a civilian agency, you're not really tied to law enforcement. When you're getting information, like you say, when you go to the police department or the organization you're dealing with, you guys just simply ask for it, or can a department say, look, we're not going to give it? Does that ever happen?
I think they're very cooperative.
Okay,
I
good.
don't know personal incidents, but it could be a case where maybe it's sensitive in nature, or it's an ongoing prosecution. Maybe they want to wait until things have settled out.
Okay. Yeah, naturally, so if it's an ongoing investigation, they, like you say, some of that information they're going to hold tight to until that's
Exactly.
settled. And of course, being that you were law enforcement before, you understand that, so that might not ruffle your feathers, but it might ruffle somebody else that's not familiar with law enforcement's protocol.
Exactly.
Now, once you get some of that information, you said you also talk to the drivers of the car. Do you guys, in your position, I know from Rick's standpoint, if there's witnesses who are passengers or other witnesses around who may have viewed the accident, I know we always speak to them. Do you guys do the same thing?
We don't speak with the drivers directly because it's anonymous. You know, the authority that we're operating under comes from the CDC in Atlanta, so it's a federal
okay,
authority,
okay.
and they want all the names and identifiers stripped off. So we take the basic information that may come from police reporting. We do a shadow investigation, field work, look at the vehicles, and really focus on the physical evidence. You know, we're not so much into the human evidence, but the physical evidence that we have presented on the person or the vehicle or the actual scene itself.
Okay, so once Rick says, look, the case is closed, Craig, go ahead, run with it, do what you've got to do. What is the length of the investigation for you guys, or does that depend on the accident? How long will you work with a particular accident? Is there a time frame, or you just work it until you feel you've gotten what you want?
You work it until you've got the data set that you need.
Okay. And your team, because you're working for U of M, and like you said, they're medical, and you have engineers and so on and so forth, what's the makeup of your team as far as the different type of people who are involved? Can you tell me?
We've got trauma surgeons. I've seen medical examiners come out, engineers, whether it's the vehicle manufacturers or the safety people. Law enforcement comes out, the fire departments, EMS.
Do each one of those work on each incident as a team?
No, they'll come in and they'll look at the presentations that we put together of the field investigation and medical information, and we use them as a panel of experts to give their expert opinion to develop a set of facts related to this incident, and then we attach a confidence level to that. Because sometimes there's things you don't know.
Right, right.
Or some things you have high confidence in, or moderate or low confidence.
Yeah.
You know, that's not a realm that they can work in.
Yes.
You know, they have to be very conservative about what they report.
Right.
If it involves a prosecution, we're gathering data sets, and we'll attach a confidence level there. So if you look at it and people say, well, maybe I don't believe that, and then you look at our notes, yeah, we couldn't come up to a consensus on a fact, and that way people don't get confused.
So it's a lower threshold.
Yes.
Now, we only have a couple minutes left, so let me ask, Craig, you belong to, as I said, the International Center for Automotive Medicine. They have a website. Why don't you tell the folks something about that group very quickly, and give the website if they would like to go on there and get some information about your organization.
It's through the University of Michigan. What you can do is look at a number of pages on there. We have Crash EDU. It shows actually what we do. There's an actual case presentation in there, as well as information on the multidisciplinary approach that we take in dealing with these types of incidents.
Okay. Rick, why don't you let the folks know about what you guys do and maybe explain why I know you already went through it, but explain to the public once again about showing us some patience and some care going through those traffic scenes.
Yeah, we need some help from the public when we're out there in the roadway. We do have an important job to do. I look at it like, what if it was my family member involved in this crash?
Right.
All the members of the team try to do the best investigation possible that we can when we're out there, all the while thinking about getting these roadway lanes open, getting this roadway out, minimizing the inconvenience. But we do have a family and a victim that deserves a high-quality investigation.
Sure.
So we're going to do our best. And it may inconvenience the public for a bit, but the end goal is very important.
And as you said, if that was their family member, they
Right.
would want the inconvenience so that the best result came out for them as well.
Yes.
Folks, if you would look at your screen, we have a police officer we would like to acknowledge, a police officer who gave her life in the performance of her duties. This is Police Officer Stacy Lynn Case from the Columbia, South Carolina Police Department, who was killed in the line of duty on November 7th, 2015. I ask you to keep her in your thoughts and in your prayers. You might wonder, why are we remembering a police officer from out of state? Well, one, she's a true American hero, but also this lady was a daughter of Michigan, and once she passed, her body was brought back to Michigan to be laid for eternal rest. So please remember Police Officer Stacy Lynn Case, who was killed in a vehicle crash. It's appropriate that we do that today. She was killed in a vehicle crash when her patrol car collided with a University of South Carolina Police Department patrol car at the intersection of College Street and Parker Street. She was responding to a call of shots fired when the collision occurred, so she was on her way to possibly save someone else's life. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to respond. She was killed, and that initial call of shots fired turned out to be the result of shots fired as a result of a suicide. Officer Case, as I said, was a true American hero. She also served as a military police officer in the United States Army for 15 years and had been with the Columbia Police Department for 4. So again, remember this wonderful American woman in your thoughts and in your prayers. Police Officer Stacy Lynn Case, and we say rest in peace, sister. Your memory will never be forgotten. And I would like to thank our guest, Craig Shackleford. Craig's the crash investigator and research analyst for International Center for Automotive Medicine, ICAM. Go to their website. And Sergeant Rick Leonard from the Auburn Hills Police Department. He's a well-versed and experienced crash investigator, and you can be rest assured he's out there. He's doing a great job for you. And just as these guys are doing a great job for all of you to reach out and get what's best so that we can all live safely, whether it be improving our roads, our cars, or just the way we drive, we want you to keep in touch with us at West Bloomfield PD as well. Remember, you can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and sign up for Nixle, and we'll be glad to send you information regarding incidents that may be of importance in your location. And of course, you can always sign up for crime mapping and find out what's going on in your community. Folks, we want to thank you for watching the show. My friends, please take care of each other, be safe, love one another. Remember, tomorrow is promised to no one. I'm Officer Rick, and I'll see you again on West Bloomfield 911.